The following is sponsored by our friends and community supporters at McNeice Wheeler Attorneys. McNeice Wheeler is a boutique law firm in Spokane, handling matters in both Washington and Idaho. Areas of law include business law, wills, trusts and estates, family law, personal injury and wrongful death, and real estate matters. For your full-service legal needs, contact McNeice Wheeler Attorneys. Spokane listens when business talks. Welcome to Business Talks, the region's only local business talk show with your host, Ryan McNeice. Business Talks is brought to you by our friends at STCU and Well Dressed Walrus. Now, let's get down to business with Business Talks.
Welcome to Business Talks. I'm Ryan McNeice, and we're here in the studio with both Jennifer Thomas and Lance Kissler, Commissioner, of the Spokane Human Rights Commission. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for making time to talk about this. This is an important organization here in Spokane, so I was excited to make it work for your schedules and have you come in. Let's start off by talking about what is the overall mission of the organization.
That's a great question. So the commission was chartered a number of years ago, and we serve as an advisory group to the city council. Commissioners are appointed by the mayor's office and confirmed by the city council. So there's actually a bit of a process there that commissioners go through with an interview and application process. And as far as the actual commission goes, our job is to look at issues in the community that are concerned about human rights, anything from groups that are coming from underserved or underrepresented or oppressed communities, whether it's race, ethnicity, any other type of kind of class, as well as housing, homelessness, gang violence,
suicide prevention, sex trafficking.
So no doubt about it, a broad scope in terms of organizational goals. And I think, Lance, as you just indicated a second ago, through the city council nomination or appointment process, you need to be somebody that has passion to even put yourself through the logistics or application process to then be appointed, as you both have been. So
right, we're all volunteers. Many of us have backgrounds that kind of tie into some personal passions around why we like to give back to the community and try to have a voice to represent the various groups out there and individuals who are impacted by anything from wage discrimination and poverty to violence or discrimination, any of that kind of stuff. So there's a kind of a broad group of us, I think, a number of different voices and perspectives, but we're volunteers.
Right.
And many people, I think that we are a body that can impose sanctions or disciplinary action or anything like that, but that's actually not our role or responsibility.
That's interesting that you mentioned that, because I think when you do hear commission, the insurance commissioner's office, the medical board or commission, I haven't thought about that, but I can
Right.
see why folks might believe in our time of political polarity that you might have individuals that think, okay, Spokane Human Rights Commission, what can you do to sanction this particular body that might be doing something?
Sure. And there is a complaint form that you can fill out on the city website. Depending upon what type of complaint it is, it's either something that would then go to the city for them to review through city staff, or it may go to a state or national level. So there is actually the Washington State Human Rights Commission, which actually does have that kind of responsibility to look into certain types of complaints. So it really depends upon the nature of the complaint as to whether or not it even falls within the local city's jurisdiction or not.
Well, and another good point, Lance, though, depending on what that complaint is and the severity of the complaint, it might be something that actually is called law enforcement.
Right.
I mean, it might be something that's in the criminal nature that rises to the level of needing law enforcement on the scene or something
Sure.
like that. In terms of the broad scope of the commission and areas in which you're absolutely passionate about, how do you go about moving in positive directions to solve those respective goals? Because sometimes it probably is somewhat broad, but in terms of resources and picking and choosing, how do you put one foot in front of the other and accomplish those goals?
So actually, Commissioner Thomas and I are on the Education and Planning Subcommittee together, and we are looking at doing some outreach. Part of being on the program here today is part of that outreach. But there's actually a couple specific things that we're looking at doing here soon, which I'll let Commissioner Thomas kind of speak to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, sorry, hit the desk.
You're fine.
We have a meeting coming up on Monday, May 7th, so next Monday. That would be a community conversation to talk about how do people perceive us in the community, and are we accurately reflecting who we are as an organization? We're going through a little bit of a soft rebranding,
Right.
and kind of making sure that we're refreshing things, making sure that our mission statement and all of those components are an accurate reflection. But definitely having some community feedback and engagement is part of that. I think what I love most about the commission is that we are a non-political group. So we have lots of different backgrounds, and people come together with a passion for the community, and we work on it from different
Right. Angles
and expertise.
Well, I think, Jennifer, as you're saying, you mentioned a second ago that people, you have to understand what you think you are as an organization and what people think you are. And
Right.
sometimes those are the same, and maybe that's the part of a rebranding or an alignment of goals is saying who do we want to be and who do people think we are, and try to align those. But also interesting that you said we're a non-political group in terms of the diversity of individuals that are within the organization. I like to think what excites me about that is no matter where you are, maybe in terms of our polarizing politics right now, that people still have a heart no matter where their political view might be at that time. They still have a common desire to do right by people.
Yeah, I don't think you have anyone around that table who is there for the wrong reasons or has any malintent. We just may have different ways of trying to accomplish perhaps some similar things.
And how strategically you might get there.
Right, exactly. And so that's part of what we're looking to do, is to try to get out in front of other groups and get those different perspectives through this coffee with a commissioner that we've got scheduled. We're also looking at bringing in more of the courageous conversations is what they're called. So those are other gatherings with the community, and when they're on specific topics, anything from gang violence to sex trafficking to wages, LGBTQIA issues.
How do you get the word
so
out
on
on
and
those?
so
And
forth.
tell me more about how that program is working.
So the commission, I believe, actually started it last year, and it's on our plan to try to have at least one per quarter this year. So we may not have an official courageous conversation before the end of this quarter.
I like the title of that.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Which, we actually did just come through the end of March a month ago. So I guess we did probably miss that quarter.
They go fast.
But it does,
They go fast.
yeah. And so so that's part of our outreach efforts. We're looking to at least take the opportunity with ours to just get a sense of what are the perceptions out there, find out what are some of the topics that people might be interested in. So one of the things that that a fellow commissioner is going to do is post to our Facebook page, which is the City of Spokane Human Rights Commission. a poll to find out what are those topics that people might be interested in having those courageous conversations about. So all of us have different backgrounds and experiences, but we may not know everything that's going on, all of the issues. And so that's where it really involves the community coming in and telling us what they feel is important,
There's
what
that
they're seeing and
collaboration.
hearing. There really is. And so our regular commission meetings, which are the fourth Tuesday of every month at City Hall, it's typically either in the City Council chambers or in their briefing center next door, down on that lower level. They're open to the public. They start at 5:30 and they generally end at about 7 p.m. And there is a public comment period at the very beginning. So you can come in, and we have in the past 6, 7, 8 months or so that we've been on the commission together. There are people who do come and share. There's been some experiences about housing in particular, and some potential housing issues in the area that they have brought to our attention. So,
what are mechanisms for collaborating maybe with other respective city commissions, or does that happen on a regular basis? I mean, I would imagine whether it be Seattle, whether it be Portland, just as an example, there are commonality.
There's the county task force, which we're just starting to have some conversations with a couple of folks there to see what we can do with some more communication and alignment with them. What are some things we can partner on? What are some things that perhaps they focus on and we focus on something else, so that we aren't doing double duty or combining our resources and efforts to address?
Jennifer, what do you think in terms of it? You've been in Spokane fairly long term. What do you think if you look back 10 years ago and where we are today? Has there been in this category, have we seen improvement? Clearly work to be done in any city USA in this regard, but what do you think over the last 10 years?
I think that we have made some great strides, and going back just a few steps to what Lance was just saying, something that Lance and I agree strongly about is not reinventing the wheel.
Let's talk about what you don't agree on. No, I'm kidding. No.
We don't have enough time.
No, go ahead, Jennifer.
So that collaboration piece, I mean, that's something that's important to us, making sure that we are reaching out with organizations. I think that you can have faster growth and make better change in the community with those collaborations instead of having an organization that wants to create and own something. And since I've been on the commission, which has just about been a year, I really enjoy the collaboration that is taking place. We have one human right or city council member Kate Burke, who sits in on meetings with us and corresponds back to city council. But we have commissioners who are working hard on some really important issues to them. So the LGBTQIA issues, sex trafficking,
Gang violence.
Yeah, gang violence, suicide means prevention. The sex trafficking specifically, I would say that's something that's not new to Spokane. It's been happening for a long time. In fact, the last time a study was done was about 10 years ago. And yet in the last 18 months, the commission has worked really hard at highlighting what is happening here in Spokane.
The reality.
The reality of it.
And trying to identify those community associations, partners, agencies, and groups that should really be connecting with one another and collaborating to address those issues. So, like we said earlier, our mission isn't to go out and to actually enforce change or to deliver programming or so on and so forth. Ours is more of an advisory role, but I think as part of that, we see ourselves as a convener of groups, and so helping get all of those folks, those players around the table to collaborate and
fostering
address an
that
issue.
advancement.
Yeah, and then seeing if does it need to go to city council and be addressed in a policy manner? Is it something that the city administration needs to take up through that route? What's the appropriate channel for it?
And who should head that up? And I
Right.
think Jennifer and Lance, you both have indicated that individuals that you're collaborating with or at the table, so to speak, are coming from different viewpoints in their own life, and it sounds like maybe you're tapping into those respective individuals that really are passionate about a given scope within the overall human rights objective.
Yeah, I think Title 18 was an interesting collaboration also, because it's the first time that the tenants union and the landlord association came together to have a conversation about housing.
That is interesting, because from a legal perspective, they're two opposite sides of the aisle, for sure. Interesting. But that speaks to the collaboration that you've been able to foster.
Right.
Let's take a short little break and come right back on Business Talks. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm weather forecaster and assignment anchor at Spokane Talks Online, Colin Pittman, and I am honored to be the host of the new program, Spokane's Youth Spotlight, brought to you by Spokane Talks Online and the Spokesman Review, where we are interviewing and getting to know outstanding youth in our community each month. If you'd like to nominate someone in our community that you think should be recognized, that is doing something great here in the region or has an amazing story, visit SpokaneTalksOnline.com or Spokesman.com and look under Youth Spotlight to nominate. And be sure to tune in each month as we find the best in the Inland Northwest.
They say it takes a community to raise a family. It also takes one to build a business. I came to Spokane 12 years ago as a Whitworth student, and I planned to leave after graduation. But the more I got to know this community, the more I wanted to become a part of it. My husband and I have built our business in Spokane, and now we're raising our family here too. We operate a consulting company that provides creative business development strategies. Our approach is holistic and dependent on intentional connections and relationships. And no one understands connections and relationships better than GSI. They direct momentum towards investments in our community, provide resources that help business leaders connect, and they're dedicated and passionate about making Spokane great. GSI gives me the confidence to build my business here because they believe every organization, even a small one like mine, adds big value to our community. With GSI's help, Spokane will be a place my son will want to build his career too. I'm Eva Marquette, owner of Freshview. We're creating something greater with Greater Spokane Incorporated.
Hi, this is Kurt Stockwell with Well Dressed Walrus. We are a local website design and development company here in Spokane. What we do is build beautiful, usable websites for local businesses. A website needs to be beautiful, it needs to be usable for your users, your customers, and yourself. Contact us anytime. We'd love to talk with you about your online marketing.
What? You haven't been to the library lately? Stop in today and see that the library is more than books. Spokane County Library District facilities feature on-site technology, including Wi-Fi, computers, and printers, as well as free use of meeting rooms. The Library District offers events and programs for all ages, from story times to career development and employer classes to Social Security workshops. Our staff is well trained and happy to help. Find out more about your library at scld.org.
Welcome back to Business Talks. I'm Ryan McNeice, and we're here in the studio with Jennifer Thomas and Lance Kissler, Spokane Human Rights Commission. Thank you, guys. We were talking right before the break about really the overall theme of collaboration to foster change, foster improvement and progress with the overall goals and mission of the organization. And I think you both have done a good job of indicating that different individuals sitting at the decision-making table bring their own personal passions to the effort. Can you both maybe individually speak to what some of your passions are that got you to the table?
Sure.
Lance, you want to kick it off, or
Sure.
Jennifer?
That's fine. My one of my strongest passions is around the LGBTQIA plus community. So having grown up in a small rural farm town and moving to Cheney to go to school, I didn't come out until the summer after graduation, and I was only in Spokane for a couple years longer before I moved to Portland, and as you can imagine, Portland was a much different place. Right. And I lived there for a few years, and I had an opportunity to move back to Spokane, and what I wasn't certain about was, am I ready to go back there, or is Spokane ready for me to come back? And so after moving back to Spokane, it only took me probably about 6 to 9 months or so, and I started to see that, gosh, Spokane had actually grown up quite a bit in terms of I felt more comfortable and welcomed, and that I felt like it was a more inclusive environment. But I knew that it still had a ways to go. And we've seen that happen over the past few years. Just within the past couple of years, we saw the Pride banners go up on the streets in downtown Spokane. That was, for someone who that is kind of a brief moment in time throughout the year where you can feel a sense of home and belonging, it means a lot.
No, recognition for who you are as a person.
Exactly. It gives you a really good sense of feeling inside, and it's not meant to be a slap in anyone else's face. It's not meant to push something onto anyone else, but it really is supposed to help show that all are welcome here, including this particular group or this community. And so I thought, after spending some time in some other various organizations that particularly some LGBT organizations in the area, that perhaps the commission would be sort of that next opportunity for me to help ensure that that voice is represented at the table. And I know there are several other commissioners who feel that same way as well. So that's not the only thing that I'm interested in. As I'm starting to learn more about what the other subcommittees are working on, certainly there's some interests there. I have a passion for education and lifelong learning. I believe in good economics and employment, and so kind of the wage issues. We just learned that there's a couple of businesses in town that are allegedly paying subpar wages, and so that's something that we, or what do they call it,
that sounds about
below
right.
minimum wage. So they're actually not paying the minimum wage. And so that to me is kind of concerning, because I believe that we need to have a good, healthy economy to support our community. So, and
to support a whole diversity of the issues we're talking today. They are all part and parcel and interconnected.
Yeah.
And you know, in terms of hearing your story, Lance, Jennifer, I think this is what you just spoke to a little bit ago in terms of where have we come in the last 10 years. And Lance, you said you came to Spokane originally through Eastern Washington University, moved to Portland, now you're back. But I think you're communicating that you yourself have seen a change.
Right.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Somebody's doing something right. I think that's great. Jennifer, how about you in terms of what brought you to the table, so to speak?
Oh man, my story feels circular. Like there's lots of layers to it. But my dad was Air Force, so we moved here in '89, and my dad's Japanese. When I came to Spokane originally, I remember feeling like an outsider. And I was in middle school at that time, so everybody probably feels like a middle schooler. But I was very aware that Spokane is a tight-knit community.
Where did you come from?
Germany, actually.
That was the direct from A to B, Germany to Spokane?
Yeah, I was born in Texas, and we lived like Florida, Germany, Texas, Germany, Washington State.
Okay, so, Air Force, gotcha.
Yeah. But I was different. I was the new kid. My dad's Japanese, half Asian. It constantly was this, I was aware that there was something different about me. And that was on a really small scale. But an acknowledgement, personally. It opened my eyes to see that I'd always known a cohesive like togetherness from that Air Force family, like living on bases or just, being overseas. There's a tight-knit community, to being an outsider. And so even at a young age, I feel like it was important to me to make sure that people didn't feel unwelcome or like an outsider.
Right.
I am a single mom. I have 4 little girls, and young. They're not so little anymore. But so a word that is a banned word in our house is weird. And so when my kids start to make a judgment about that's weird, I'm like, okay, what you're really saying is I don't understand it and I have more questions.
It's different than your norm.
And so I strive really hard to raise humans that are willing to ask questions and not make judgments. And so coming to the commission, it was wanting to be a part of something that I could say, if you don't understand it, that says more about you than the other person. And so let's take time to understand one another and be a community.
Well, Jennifer, I like how you're describing that, because again, like Lance has as well, it's what brings us to involvement, whether to engage here in Spokane or another city, what have you. But we all have opportunities professionally to be involved in a diversity of organizations. But I think you both are describing really well that when there's something you're passionate about and that opportunity is in front of you, you know it, and you know that maybe I can be a voice for this, versus something else that maybe you could put your time and resources in, but it might not be your passion, or it might not be your expertise, quite frankly. But I think what you both are describing is when you have a combination of your professional skills, but also, hey, I really passionately believe in this. That's where I think if you take the two of you times all the people that are involved in this group, that's how you actually affect change.
Yeah.
I think you guys are seeing it.
We are, and we have an open invitation for others to join us as well. So while there's only a certain number of commissioner seats that are available, we do have subcommittees, and those subcommittees are open to any member of the community to come and participate. Help us be that change, be that voice. If you've got a passion, come join us. It's a great way to get involved, and then if a commission seat becomes available, it might be that next step that you want to take with creating some change in the community.
I think a lot of different organizations have been, here locally for sure, have been doing a really good job lately of kind of reaching out across the aisle, if you will, but into different professions and or different organizations that don't normally on paper look like, hey, those two work real well together. But I feel like we've seen more and more of that where educational institutions have done that, where I know Gonzaga Law School has reached out to the medical community and vice versa, of course, and Washington State and UW and Gonzaga and Eastern, really doing a lot of that idea of finding the expertise of the respective organizations, but then making the whole thing better. Right. I know Gonzaga Law School and Jason Gilmer is heading up the Ethics and Human Rights Chair, the Don Curran family Ethics chair. So Jason Gilmer is somebody I think that would be great to have at this table and at future opportunities to engage with the law school, because I know they're really trying to bring some scholarly work and engagement there as well.
Yeah, and we've had folks from like the Center for Justice and several others come and attend the meetings too. But that's another idea that we've kind of kicked around a little bit, is some sort of perhaps like a summit or something, which might be a good opportunity to bring a lot of those key players together and have those discussions and see what should we be looking at as a community around this arena. So along those same regards, we are taking a look at bringing back the Human Rights Awards. It was 2013, I think, was when there was the last, perhaps the first and last one. And
the first inaugural, and
yes,
this will be our last. Thank you very
so we're going to do, we're starting to have those conversations with a few community partners out there to see, once again, not reinvent the wheel and foster some collaboration. So that could be a good opportunity for us to get a bunch of people together, celebrate, and then perhaps start to create that momentum for more collaboration and discussions moving forward.
Where do you see, this is a little broad, but where do you see yourselves as an organization in 2 to 5 years?
That's a great question.
The summit is one of them, looking to organizationally create that.
Yeah, I think that's part of the what we're going to be looking at with the rebranding process, is doing some reflection as a commission and taking a look at the original charter and having conversations with council members, with the administration, to find out is our current mission and charter really reflective of what we need to be doing, or should it be changed, expanded, focused? How should it be addressed? I really see there being an opportunity for us to be a convener of groups, perhaps not just have an advisory role, but maybe there's something additional that needs to come along with it, because advisory is great, but if you don't have the resources to actually enact the recommendations, that your group makes, then sometimes it can feel like you're just throwing stuff against a wall and nothing is going to stick.
Right.
So I think that's something that we might need to consider, is how do we put some stuff in place to actually then see that change happen.
See it through the whole process.
Right.
Jennifer, Lance, thank you both so much for taking the time. Thank you for what you're both doing passionately for our community. We all live in the community, and we all see the fruits of what you guys are putting your time into. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
What is the best place for folks to find out more information on the commission or to reach out to you?
Yeah. So we have our Facebook page. That's probably the easiest thing to find. We do have a presence on the city website. If you go to the boards and commissions section, you can find our page there. The agenda is published in advance for our monthly meetings, since those are open to the public. It has our information on there. I don't know if it has our email addresses published or not, but we do have city email addresses that you can contact us by.
Perfect.
But the Facebook page is probably the best. We'll be posting more information about the Coffee with the Commissioner, Courageous Conversations, future subcommittee meetings, and we've got the next meeting is coming up on Tuesday, May 22nd, 5:30. And then the Pride Parade is coming up on Saturday, June 9th.
Saturday,
so that's another
June 9th.
event that we'll be participating
Let's hope for
in.
good weather.
Yeah.
Like today. We have
Yes,
great weather
exactly.
today. Thank you both so much.
Yeah.
See you next time.
All right. Thank you.
Business Talks is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksOnline.com, which is solely responsible for its content. Ask a question, recommend a guest, and hear this program again online anytime at SpokaneTalksOnline.com. Business Talks is brought to you by our friends at STCU and Well Dressed Walrus. Business Talks wishes you good business and a good day.